What's going on, y'all? It's Jay Small Reviews back at it again very quickly. Here, obviously, just uploaded the Trenches predictions. So for those of y'all, I mean, literally just uploaded it like maybe a couple hours, maybe an hour ago from whenever this goes up. I don't know, but check that out if you can. But as you can see by the title here, this is the Loaded Lux Book'em. Going over the 5 matchups that I think would be next best for Loaded Lux, a series I haven't touched into in a little bit here. Want to get back into all those series, Golden Years, Book'em. For all my longtime fans, I want to bring more of the creative content back. We just had so many different events. I got to do prediction recap. You know the drill, but there's so much talk about Loaded Lux. There's talk about who Loaded Lux should battle. We're seeing him tease who he might battle, talk a little bit of trash. We have some people, we really have an overwhelming person that's being picked that we'll talk about at number 1. The way this works, I give the 5 matchups from kind of least likely to most likely, with number 1, in my opinion, being the next battle that battler should take. So 5 options here for Loaded Lux. We're going to go over all the different reasons why he should or why he shouldn't battle some of these people, what makes sense. And without further ado, let's get into the opponents that are lining up for Beloved. So at number 5, first person to mention is JC. Now, Loaded Lux versus JC is a battle that's been talked about, obviously, over the years with JC's famous, going after Lux campaign in 2017. And it's a match that some people I still see all the time ask for. Oh, Lux duck JC, and this and that. And obviously, after SM6, when JC had cleared Rum Nitty on the SM6 stage in really dramatic fashion, that was like the peak of wanting it. We know a couple losses afterwards, kind of battled himself out of it, right? Big K, even though Big K might have been before SM6, but Big K, Ilmac, Twerk, T-Top, right? We know the drill. From there, then he builds up momentum again last year, right? He's winning the tournament. He wins the 120,000 on Gnome. All he's got to do is maybe even have a debatable with Sue Surf, and the Lux plate is in his grasp. And once again, he battles himself out of it. And I just think where we're at right now, I don't think it'll ever be a bad battle if Lux and JC battle. It would be dope. I would have Lux winning, to be honest with you guys. But the stock isn't there right now, and I'm not really sure how JC's going to get that stock up again. He could battle Verb, but obviously Verb's made that look like it's going to be impossible to ever do. Hollow, who we recently called out, but I just don't see the buzz right now to book that. I suppose if you do great against Hollow, that could open up the doors for Lux. But your stock has to be in a certain place. Your brand has to be in a certain place. And with the way that it just went for JC as of recent, I don't see him reaching back, at least in the soon future, into that contention where he's like a god tier, big headlining plate. So not a bad matchup stylistically. It's a pen, which we desperately want Lux to battle. It hasn't battled many writers for the best writer of all time title that he has, right? All this, he's the best writer, but he's in battle other writers. So as for, you know what I'm saying, as for that, that's how I feel about the JC plate and why it comes in at number 5. At number 4, another pen heavy plate, Danny Myers. Now, some people are humongous fans of this, super want to push it through. Danny and Lux on the roof, right? Danny personally has campaigned for it, dropped a diss record, called out Lux in a variety of matchups. The funniest one was probably versus J2. Dropped a Haymaker versus J2 and was like, where's Lux? Where's Mook? They're not anywhere near a J2 battle. And I think that's kind of the thing with Danny, is people don't want to hear it, but like we said with JC, and like we're going to say with a few people here, the brands have to meet up. You know what I'm saying? It has to make sense, not just stylistically. There's a lot of stylistic battles that make sense in battle rap, but it's got to make sense on the build-up side. And right now, I wouldn't say that Danny has no momentum or anything like that, but Danny doesn't have crazy momentum. I think his best win of the year is versus Flair Soul, which was a great performance. But outside of that, the Clips battle is nasty. The J2 battle is a win, but it's kind of nasty. It just hasn't been, out of all the Danny years, while he might be the most active he's ever been, it hasn't been riveting. There hasn't been too many humongous peaks. And as much as I love Danny, I just don't think that there's I don't think it's going to make sense right now. Now, of course, if I see Lux and Danny in a volume, that is a good battle. To me, it's even a little better than the JC battle. Pen versus pen, I'm never going to be mad at it, but if I'm going to be realistic, I just don't see a world with the way that Danny books himself that all of a sudden he's going to be headlining one of the bigger cards of the year versus Loaded Lux on his return after a couple years, you know what I'm saying? So, not a bad, similar to JC, not a bad matchup, but I'm sad to say when it comes to JC and Danny, it is going to be the classic great pen, no brand kind of excuse that people make. And for me is the reason that particular battle comes in at number 4. So moving right along, we get into number 3, and this top 3 are the names I probably see the most often. Like I said, Danny and JC, it's no disrespect. I just have seen the way that these god tiers get booked, and it's just very hard for me to see either of those two gentlemen getting this plate. So when I look at this top 3, these are people I can actually realistically see getting it. And at number 3, we have DNA. The DNA versus Lux matchup is a tough one because it's just so easy to kind of like slip into disrespect in a sense, right? It's so easy for people as I see like, we don't want Lux DNA and it's terrible, this and that. And I see that DNA doesn't really feel appreciated by it, right? Coming off of the Jerry West loss, a lot of people, because he calls out Lux in the Jerry West battle, which is poor timing. You know what I'm saying? He's already losing the battle by the time he calls him out. People are like, he doesn't deserve it, this and that. And it's all about word choice. CDNA, this disgusting culture, and I'm really the best fight for Lux. You even see people like, I think it was Gerald McCoy was saying that he's Lux's toughest fight, which I disagree with, what I'm saying, respectfully. But I think DNA does deserve this plate. If DNA and Lux gets booked, I'm not going to look like, oh, how the hell did DNA get this? To think he doesn't is crazy. DNA's battled everyone. He's a legend of the highest tier, in my opinion. Top 10 battle rapper of all time. A lock for at least the top 15 battle rapper of all time. So him battling Lux he's not out of place by any means. But the truth is that people just don't want this matchup. Stylistically, it's just not a matchup that people want. The combo that could be had is not a super crazy one where we're waiting for a certain angle or a certain dialogue. And what's messed up is I think I would have DNA beating Lux. I think DNA has the capabilities to beat Lux. He's done some of his best work that he's done in years with angling as a stage performer. Even though the West battle didn't work out, he blew up the stage twice this year on No Impact and versus KCJ on Kings versus Queens. He's still as good as ever. But at the end of the day, there has to be fan draw behind it. And the people just don't want to see the style matchup of DNA versus Lux. This does not mean the DNA's. Some people are going to say the DNA's much worse than Lux. I don't believe that. Like I said, I think I would have DNA beating Lux in the prediction. But at the end of the day, it's not something that the people want to see. So while it's going to be up there in the higher matchups, the truth is that there's not too many crazy lucrative matchups for Lux right now where it's like 4 amazing matchups for the competing, right? The Daylight Plate, which hint, isn't going to be on here because I don't think it's ever going to exist, right? So that's out of the picture. People wanted that. B-Dot and Lux would have been by far the best matchup for Lux, and he didn't want that. So when the options get lower, you're going to see more matchups that you wouldn't want at first, but you'll grow more accustomed to because that's the options that are there. And even in that situation, people still really don't want the DNA matchup. So respect to DNA. It's no disrespect to him as a legend, anything like that. But the people just don't really want to see it. And for me, that's why it comes in a little bit lower at this list at number 3. Moving right along to the top 2 and at the runner-up spot, a plate that kind of came out of nowhere, but when your brands are this big, people are going to talk about it, and that is Loaded Lux versus Hitman Holla. It's not going to get much bigger when we talk like Mega Match Field, just in terms of like brand, right? Like Hitman is a superstar, you know what I'm saying, the highest caliber. Lux is a superstar of the highest caliber, kind of like the most known of the YouTube era versus the most known of the DVD era and early Smack, right? We all know that they're like the lead men of 2 different eras. You could debate Mook and Lux, you know what I'm saying, things like that, or Surf and Hitman, but you get the gist. This is all about box office. And that is really the only selling point of this battle. Obviously, for those that didn't know, they almost battled in 2021. That was kind of the big... That was kind of where this all stems from, is Hitman saying that previous to the Geechee and Lux battle, there was a possibility for a Lux Hitman battle in RBE, and Hitman said, with Lux's busy schedule coming up with Geechee, what if he's coming off a loss? I don't really want to take that and turn down the plate. We all know now in hindsight, Loaded Lux did lose to Geechee Gotti and has pretty much sat down for 2 years afterwards. So a lot of people are referring to this as some sort of backstory, but to me, it may be less of a backstory and more of a sign. Stylistically, this battle isn't the crazy, not the worst either. You're just getting the highest performance versus what people consider the highest of Penn. Hitman's coming off the Will battle, which is a good return to form, although the Easy battle wasn't really bad. He just lost. You know what I'm saying? It got bad as it went on, but his first was great. And the Will battle is extremely debatable, extremely great main event, right, on Max Out 3. So his buzz, which is always going to be there. Hitman's always going to have buzz, but there's more of a favorable, right? He's coming off of a much better decision than his Easy battle was. And Penn versus performance, it's cool, but I don't see that there's some crazy dialogue to be had here either. And that's what you see with a lot of these mega matches, is usually they book for some type of rivalry, some type of edge. And listen, if these 2 men promo it and it overwhelmingly becomes the battle that people want, it is what it is, but I don't think stylistically or backstory-wise there's a lot there. This is people trying to combine a big brands, which isn't really a bad, mindset either when we talk about the business of battle rap. But kind of popped up out of nowhere, in my opinion, and it's at number 2, so I wouldn't be mad at seeing the matchup, but I do think there is a match that is specific for Lux that I think right now is the time to book, and it is the match in my number 1 spot. And that other matchup is Rum Nitty. Now, there's a few different ways to tackle this one. And for me, at the end of the day, what this is going to come down to is obviously the writing versus writing. Lux wanting to see a writer. Now, what's the difference between, the Danny and JC matchup and where we're at here with the Nitty matchup? Well, I think Nitty's brand in the last few years, if you brought up the Lux matchup, it wouldn't seem realistic. Same with the way it wouldn't seem with the JC or Danny, just because he doesn't have the buzz of a Geechee who would get the matchup, right? Of a Hitman who's talking now. But now when you see people ask about the Lux matchup, you see Nitty's name really more than ever. Shout out Let's Talk Battle Rap, the home team, you know what I'm saying, what I represent, everybody there. And we put out a voting metric of a voting poll on Twitter of 3 different names. It was DNA, Hitman, and Lux, this top 3 of who people wanted to see Lux versus next. It was about 3,000 votes, and it came out to Rum Nitty winning over 65% of the votes. Now, one Twitter poll doesn't determine anything, but I don't think you would have seen something like this in years past. I think that Nitty's brand in other years where it's been lacking is finally beating up to a star level where this matchup doesn't seem crazy. They talked a little bit on SM13 stage, right? They had the little moment where Lux is like, I would for sure take Nitty. And the Hip Hop is Real interview where people are clipping Loaded Lux talking crazy about Hitman. He talks about Nitty a lot in that same interview and talks about Nitty being his toughest matchup that he could take right now, his respect for Nitty's penmanship, and the fact that it's a name that he's personally thrown out there. And what I always see with Lux and Luke is they say, we want the people to decide our matchup, right? We want the people to decide who's going to get the God tier play. And at this point, more than any other, I think I've seen the most buzz for Nitty and Lux. And as mentioned in the beginning, writing, right? Seeing Lux versus another pen has become so hard to make the brand make sense with the style matchup. Well, this is probably going to be our best chance, right? The light battle was the one that made sense, but we've done it for years now, people. It's not happening. The B-Dot matchup, as I said, was also the best matchup for Lux. It doesn't look like B-Dot's coming back. And Rum Nitty's possibly the best writer in the world right now. Many would argue that. Many would argue might be the best battle rapper current in the world right now, which is another trend. You see Lux usually come back. He'll take a Geechee. What did that make sense stylistically? It didn't, but the brand was there and people heralded Geechee as one of the best in the world, as he did win his 3rd Cody off of that Lux battle. I just think finally that things have aligned for this, and I see people pivoting to Hitman and DNA, and the older vets are always going to get a little bit of love in that sense, right? The early YouTube vets, they're going to want Lux versus them before other matchups come up. But right now, Nitty's on top of the world, I think more than he's ever been. He's going to have Ilmac as the main event of Blackout 8, a huge event, and depending on, already has good buzz after the Jazz battle in SM. If that goes great, it's going to be sky-high hype for Nitty to get another God-tier plate. Lux has already said that he would take it. The people want it. I just don't see what more has to be shown here to show that this really is the next matchup I think that Loaded Lux should be taking. And most importantly, I think it'll bring the best out of Loaded Lux. You've seen Loaded Lux in so many style clashes with Real Talk, right? Battle Arsenal, Geechee, the 2-on-2 versus Rock and Chess. We just look at his last few years of work. It's a lot of, there's not really those pen matchups, and I think it would allow him to be that full crazy pen that people want to see. People are saying, oh, Lux hasn't been the best as he's been in other years. I think it's because he has to angle, he has to be on a big stage. Maybe this battle would have to take place on a big stage for monetary reasons, right? But I think he could get into that scheming bag, that writing bag that people grew up loving Lux for. And if you get him at his peak with writing, with Rum Nitty being able to write back, you mix in a little bit of the other elements, and to me, stylistically, what the draw-wise, it is the matchup people want right now, and I think it is the best matchup for Loaded Lux to take next. And that is my book'em here. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to Lux, it's a passionate topic. It's a huge plate. It's an honor. Even if people feel like he's washed or whatever, it's a spectacle for him to come out. And for many of these guys that grew up, the battlers that grew up watching battle rap and studying the sport, it means a lot to them. It's kind of like a cherishing moment. So for any of these gentlemen, they're all Hall of Famers. You know, one is not just overly over the top better than the others, but I think the way things are looking and just how momentum organically is going, I think this is kind of the order of how I see the matchups. You guys let me know in the comments down below. Counter argue with me. Who do you think should be Lux's matchup? Do you think it should be Nitty? Do you think it should be Hitman or DNA? Do you think it should be someone completely out? And give me an explanation on why you think that is. Because we can put up against anyone stylistically. But as I said, when it comes to God tiers, There's the style and all that, but then there's the branding, the marketing, and if that plate makes sense at that moment. So take that in mind when you're thinking about who Lux should battle next. But as I said, you guys let me know in your comments down below your feelings on this topic. I've let you know mine. Check out my trenches video. I'll probably have that at the end here. Just came out not so long ago, right? Just came out an hour or two ago. And yeah, it's been J Small Reviews again, y'all. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to catch you on the next one, man. Peace.